The world changes rapidly at St. Paul University, Philippines. We are committed to focus on what matters most, the value of education by providing learning for all. Join us in Higher Education in Focus, Discover, Visualize, and Reimagine, a global webinar series that explores the challenges, opportunities, and lessons that educational institutions around the world needs. The series will involve cutting-edge thinking in today's higher education. Learn from higher education experts, thought leaders, researchers, and innovators as they share their expertise about these contemporary topics that will benefit students, educators, and leaders across all disciplines. Good day, world. I am Alan Blaquera, and welcome to the 8th episode of our webinar series, Innovate Your Future. This series aims to provide practical competencies and transferable skills in response to the changing landscape of higher education, communicate current global higher education trends and challenges, and explore multiple ways for higher education professionals to respond to the change in transformation brought about by technology and innovation. Before we formally start, here are a few reminders. To welcome us all, may I introduce the Program Director for Nursing at King Faisal University College of Applied Medical Science, the Vice President of Sigma Honor Society of Nursing, Phi Gamma Chapter, a Certification Board of Commissioner, National League for Nursing, a Gallup Certified Strengths Coach, and an adjunct faculty of St. Paul University, Philippines, Dr. Benjo Reboneria.
Thank you very much, Alan. So we are now on our 8th event of the series, although we have some confusion with the time, but rest assured that the participants will be joining very soon. If we will talk about the previous event with Sir Daddy, who happened to talk about innovation and leadership, I think one of the most important lessons that we got from that event is, honestly, me on a personalized level, is really humility. Because he's probably one of those people that I was able to connect with. And the humility is just, and the kindness is just really, how can I say it? Is very evident in his character. And from all the lessons that we got from that, I will try to relate that based on my profession, which is the nursing profession. So the advent and adoption of new technologies have dramatically changed nursing practice over the past several decades and will continue to do so in the future. So even in my presentation that I did in Bahrain, it also talks about the future. And given the rapid acceleration of technological advances, nurses are practicing in the coming decade, and we need to be adept at and comfortable with using emerging technologies and have the skills to support or mentor other nurses along the way, or nurses who are doing the same. Nurses are like us, we are also positioned as one of the most influential healthcare professionals in the healthcare industry, that we have the ability to design, to adopt and adapt new technologies in practice, and also leverage data to identify and address the needs of the population, to individualize care, and also to reduce health disparities. So with everything that we have learned from last week, it's also very important as key stakeholders, particularly on the leadership level or in the nursing leadership level, to understand how the use of these new technologies can reduce rather than exacerbate inequalities or inequities. So these are just some of the lessons learned and takeaways from that event, Alan. And for our next faculty member who will be providing a short words of inspiration before we formally introduce our speaker for tonight, let me call in Dr. Janet Permian, the coordinator of the senior high school at St. Paul University, Philippines. Dr. Janet. Dr. Janet. All right. So I will be calling Dr. Janet later so that there will be no gap in the program. And I think we're about to start to introduce our speaker. And as I was talking to Dr. Jack, he told me um, to give me some information about him and also try to take a look at when it comes to his biography and his years of experience in the field of innovation. Dr. Jack Matson had been in the he is an environmental engineering professor most of his professional life. And according to one of his striking stories is that he was hit by a lightning in 1984, which caused him to reinvent his life and probably made some changes in his life. His talk for tonight will be focused on what he has learned from all the experiences and including that experience that he had and relate it to personal reinventions to thrive in the future. When it comes to his educational background, he has a BS and a Master of Science in Chemical Engineering, a PhD or a doctorate in the same field of environmental engineering. And he worked in several universities, such as an environmental engineering professor in the University of Houston from 1974 to 1991. He also became or was a professor and director of the Leonhard Innovation Center at the Penn State University from 1992 to 2010 and initiated Invent Penn State as goal for the university. He is also a renowned author and have written some books such as The Art of Innovation, in the process being updated, and also the other book which is Innovate or Die. He has done a lot of educational activities, including offering courses like in Coursera, the course related to creativity, innovation, and transformation, and many other projects involving innovation. He has 2 children, Jennifer and Brian, and 4 grandchildren, and residing in State College, Pennsylvania, the home of the Penn State University. So let me call in our speaker for tonight, Dr. Jack Matson.
Well, thank you very much, Benjo. I see myself on the screen. So yes, okay. So here I'll click on myself. Okay, I see there are a number of people signed up. So I should just go ahead. Is that the protocol right now?
Yes.
Okay, good. First of all, thank you for inviting me. This technology is amazing. Here I am in halfway around the world, and yet it seems like, and I see Benjo and I can discuss and give a lecture and have questions. So let's get to it. Why am I here? Why am I addressing you? And the big question is, why should you innovate? Now, there's a partial answer to that question because you probably already are to a certain extent. The world's changing so rapidly, and just trying to keep up with what's happening, you have to innovate. And so the question is not whether you're innovative or not. We know we all are. Our genetics and so forth has gotten us this far, but the question is, how can we innovate faster than our situation? In other words, we have to keep ahead in order to not only maintain our positions, but also hopefully to contribute to humanity. I know many of you are nurses out there, and I've done some studies of nursing, and I have some statistics here to start out with that are interesting and somewhat alarming. This is a study that was done and just recently by the National Public Radio on May 2nd. It said 1/3 of the nurses are likely to leave within 5 years. That's pretty amazing. 1/3. And 80% expect their future to be much worse. But this is unusual because their statistics show that 75% of all businesses face disruptive forces, and 35% of the employees are worried about their jobs. So we live in an environment that is somewhat scary in terms of our futures and the futures of our families and our countries. I know that this weekend I got my 6th COVID shot, the so-called bivalent shot.
I got my 4th.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? And I still don't know what bivalent means, but I think it offers me more protection as it does my wife. And 6 shots. And it's interesting because we took very good care of ourselves during the pandemic. However, both of us did catch COVID, and my wife went through it quite easily. I had long COVID. It lasted more than 2 months. So we're in this great experimental phase of when is the next pandemic, and how is that going to impact us, and particularly the nursing profession? I have some other facts here that the reason that nurses are likely to leave is high stress, unsafe conditions, and short staffing. And you probably know that much better than I do, the problems there, and also the fact that there may be or probably are more pandemics on the way, and that continues to restructure our society and how we deal with it. So you're at a very critical point, I think, in what's happening and what is the fate of ourselves in the future. Now, I'm going to put this in a greater context that the facts are that we live in a volatile world. It's unstable. And we don't know how long it's going to be that way. It's probably going to be even less stable in the future. One example are the wars that are going on and how these wars impact our lives. Of course, we've got the major war between Russia and Ukraine, but there are all sorts of conflicts going on around the world, and that's likely to continue. So high volatility. Another one is uncertainty. We know causes, we know there's going to be pandemics, but we can't really predict what we can do about it. There's a cause, but the effects are uncertain. Another is the complexity of the world. There are so many interconnected parts that it's hard to predict what's going to happen in the next 10 years. In my field, which is environmental engineering, we have global warming. and the impacts of global warming. And I became an environmental engineer back in 1968, when the field was just beginning, and we were just trying to solve problems of toxic chemicals and so forth. I, in the 1980s, became aware of global warming and its consequences. But we haven't done much about it. We are starting to. We're trying to electrify and use energies that are not fossil fuels. But we're going to possibly, in the next 50 years, we're going to see much greater issues associated with that, which we really can't define, other than it's going to change the nature of who we are, what we're going to do, and where we're going to live. I know here in State College, we're safe from flooding, but I'm flying to Houston this afternoon, where my daughter and granddaughters are, and that's close to the Gulf of New Mexico, and they're vulnerable to flooding, and it's going to become worse. And there aren't any answers other than keep looking, keep watching, and do what we can. And then the last one is the ambiguity of our existence. There are what we call unknown unknowns. Just like the pandemic that happened because of wet market in China, and we're still not quite sure of what happened and how it happened. But there's going to be disruptive forces continuing in our lifetimes, along with global warming, along with population issues. So in some ways, you can look at it as very disruptive forces, which they are. On the other hand, it presents opportunities. And these opportunities are, how do we come up with the next set of innovative ideas? How do we implement these ideas? And so that's what I'm here to talk about, because I think we all have an incredible potential to innovate. And the more we can innovate, the more we can come up with solutions to these problems. It's all to the good of society. It's all good to everybody. So I'm going to talk directly about how to do that. And I hope you have questions for me. I want to go back to 1984. I was 41 years old. I was a tenured professor at the University of Houston. And on a hot summer afternoon, and Houston is hot in the summer, I was out playing tennis because I was a tennis fanatic. And so my buddy and I were playing, and there was clouds in the distance, but the informal rule we had is we'll stop playing when the court gets wet. Well, that was dumb, because as I started to serve, lightning hit. And lightning hit a pole that surrounded the court, and then the lightning shards came out from there. And both my friend and I were hit. I was hit on the head, prefrontal cortex, and knocked out. And I don't know how long I was knocked out, but as I was being knocked out, I fell over and I could hear the snap of the electric current into the court. So I woke up, bad dream, not a bad dream, reality. And I felt my head, and it was bleeding. And I got off the court, as did my friend. And I had the worst headache I possibly could. And so what happened? Why did it happen? And the other question, why am I still alive? I mean, I could be dead, but I am alive. But how alive am I? So I saw the medical people quickly, and they said, well, there's nothing physically wrong with you, but you got hit on the head. You got hit on the part of the brain where a lot of your memory is stored, and you're not very coherent. And so we're going to send you to a psychologist and have him analyze you in terms of memory loss. I go, memory loss? Wow. Don't want to lose my memory. But so anyways, I did go to my psychologist, whose name was Norm, and Norm evaluates me and said, yes, you have lost a lot of your memory. And the problem with that is that memory is who you are. You're a composite of your memory, of the experiences you've had. And you're no longer who you are. I can't bring back that memory. All I can do is advise you on how to create new memories that will congeal with the memories that you have and produce the new you. And I said, well, that's not acceptable. I don't want to be the new you. I want you to reconstruct me, make me who I was. I couldn't believe what he was saying, but I had to believe what he was saying. And so his next work was to get me in the mode of recreating my life. And the way I was to do that, he said, was to be creative about it. You still have that potential inside you. And I had not confronted that word creativity and what it really meant. And I struggled with it. And I realized after studying creative people that I had to live a creative life. It wasn't just studying it, I had to do it. And in doing it, I created these new memories. And my first act was to take my university office, remove everything from that office, and then started to put in colorful elements, like a colorful rug from the Mideast, paintings on the wall. So this was my creative den that I could go into, and I would see it, I would feel it. That was a beginning. I was struggling enormously because I had to teach class. I had classes to teach. And I'm in a very depressed state. But my advisor at that time told me, well, you have to live this creative life. And one part of it is see how you can put creativity into the classroom, which I thought was impossible. These are engineering courses. You teach algorithms, you teach them how to design things. You're not dealing with creativity in any kind of meaningful way. You're talking about the way you do things now, not the future. So I struggled enormously. And the other thing was that I was on the verge of suicide. You know, I had in my mind that get it over with. God has not finished the job on me. So I had that as an overlay, trying to work my way out of this depressed state. And so that first year was tough. And as I started to reinvent myself, I'm going to use that word, reinvent myself, because I had been disrupted with a tremendous disruption in me. To reinvent myself, nobody around me wanted to accept the new me that I was evolving to. It was like, my other professors, why are you doing this? This is ridiculous. Just teach what you need to teach, but cut out all that creativity stuff. And but I couldn't. I I knew that I would lead a very limited life that way. And so the memories I still had to be combined with new creative acts. And so for the next 2 years, I kept trying to find ways to put creativity in the classroom. And my department head was a kind gentleman. I had him sit in on some of my classes, and he said, "Jack, nothing's going on here." I said, "Well, you're very observant. I haven't figured it out yet," because nobody else was doing this at that time. But slowly, I started to get a feel for how could I do this? How could I get creativity in the classroom? And as I look back on what I had tried, I had learned a lot through all the failures that I had, through all the attempts to get creativity. And I realized that I had learned a lot from those failures. And there were glimpses of opportunities there. And one of them was to develop a concept called intelligent fast failure. In other words, if you're trying new stuff, you're undoubtedly going to fail. And failure isn't so bad as long as you analyze that failure and understand it, and then add it to my knowledge base up here. And so these courses that I taught in design, I said, you're going to go through a lot of failure here. So instead of me telling you how to do something, I want you to figure it out, and let's go through the failures together on it. So once I had a principle, intelligent fast failure, they could understand that, and they could go along with me. And the other thing I did, I said, I'm going to change my teaching style over to where I involve the students in what they should learn. So I would give out a rough syllabus at the beginning of the course. I'd say, here, for the first week or two, we're going to look at the syllabus, and I want your input. I want you to change it. And so in an introductory course, the student said, well, we have this beach not too far from here, and we want to know whether it's polluted or not. Now, I hadn't thought of that idea, but it came from them. Well, there are tests you can run, biological tests, coliform tests, and you can get some indication. So why don't you break up in teams and study various parts of the beaches? And they loved that. They wanted to know where to swim and where not to swim. And so the teaching became one where I had the students totally involved in the makeup of the course. And that really changed how I felt about teaching and how they reacted to teaching. And so they started to like it. What is this? You like this creativity stuff. And so that was an eye-opener for me, that it was possible to change their mentality. And in that process, I was changing my mentality. So I'm not going to make the story much longer, but I became really good at this. And I started to win prizes on my creative approaches to teaching and learning. And I won a major national prize, a $100,000 prize, to go teach at the University of Michigan. And it turned out that it was in the business school, and the name of the course was entrepreneurship. Well, I hadn't done much entrepreneurship, if any, in my life. So I'm thinking, well, I'm going to teach creativity and innovation, which I now know how to teach. But now this course is titled entrepreneurship. So what I'll do is I'll teach them how to get real creative and innovative in the first half of the course. And these were business students. So the second half of the course is they go out and start businesses. And that worked amazingly well. So I added that to my repertoire. Let's have engineers become starters of businesses. And a year after that, we're now up to 1990, I get a message from Penn State University saying we want to start an innovation center. And we understand that you teach this sort of thing. So would you be interested in being the director of the center? Oh, wow, the director of the center. Now that's a step up. I can influence more people that way. So I interviewed and I was selected to start up this brand new center. There isn't any such center in the United States at that time that emphasized innovation for undergraduate students, particularly engineering students. So I started that center, and even though the university had the center set up, there were always resistances. There was resistance among the faculty, there was resistance among the administration. Even though I had this center, you're always dealing with resistance. And not only the outside resistance, but there's certain resistance inside me. How crazy do I want to get in this? How much am I going to put myself on the line and make these things happen? And how much do I want to reinvent myself? I went through various levels of reinvention. And so I had to continue to push myself out of the comfort zone. And when I'm always pushing myself out of the comfort zone, I am very uncomfortable. Is this the way I want my life to be? Is this continuous discomfort? The answer is yes, Jack, you must do this. You must. You can't stop. You're in this position now. So I started courses. I started minors in innovation and entrepreneurship that I had to really work hard to get those accepted. But I did. I did because I was committed. I could see these students, once their light bulbs turned on, wow, they had the ability to follow through. And I'm going to tell one little more part of the story, then I'm going to go back to some other things. But the part of the story that was most interesting to me was in 1995, in one of my classes in innovation, the students looked at my outline and said, well, why don't we involve the president of the university in our course? Now, this is a university that has 50,000 students, and the president, let's see if he's interested in creativity and innovation. And I said, well, how are you going to do this? Well, we're just going to walk up to his office, knock on the door, and see if they'll talk to us. And in my mind, I'm saying, oh, that's a crazy idea. It probably won't work. So well, you learn by the experience how to deal with higher ups. So they do. A group of students go over to his office, knock on the door. There's a secretary there. And they say, well, we want to see the president and talk to him about creativity, innovation, and change. And she's looking at the students and she says, well, let me check. Let me see if he wants to talk to you. So she checked, and he said he had an open half hour. And so he started talking to the students, and the students telling him about the course. And that lasted for about an hour and a half. He said, yes, I want to be involved. I'm interested. Keep me informed as to what's going on. Well, once we got the president interested, big things started to happen. The first big thing was to set up what was one of my pet projects, and that is to have freshman seminar courses, 1 credit, where they just learned about the discipline. And of open-ended courses, if you become an electrical engineer, here's what the possibilities are. And he decided to start up even a larger innovation center for the whole university, because the one that I was in was for engineering, called the Schreier Institute. So anybody could participate. And to do that, you needed courses across the curriculum on creativity and innovation. And so we were working up, and that takes time in a university, because universities are slow in doing anything. But we kept pushing, and I had other people surrounding me. And interestingly enough, I found about a dozen people who had the same attitude that I did, and we would meet and discuss and how to attack the system. And we had a lot of failure, which was normal. How do we work around this? The dean of liberal arts and things like that. How do we get that accepted? But we had the president. We got to go back to the president. And then our president got fired in 2012 in a scandal that happened at Penn State, and a new president comes in. But the beauty of it was the new president that came in, they found somebody who had the creativity message. And so when he came in, he had this concept of reinvent Penn State. And Penn State has 26 branch campuses, and he decided that at each branch campus, there needed to be an innovation center. And this innovation center not only served the students, but served as a direct link to the communities in terms of business and business activities, new businesses. So that story continues today. He retired about 2 years ago, but he built a $50 million building to foster entrepreneurship. And when you say entrepreneurship, you're talking about creativity and innovation and looking at it toward opportunities to start business. So it's an amazing thing here now. This is what, 30 years, almost 30 years since I infected the University, Penn State University. And that's fast for an academic university to have all that happen in that period of time. So it's been pretty incredible. And in the meantime, of course, I caught fire because I'm in the fire, so I catch fire. And so I start up businesses that were unrelated to anything else that I had done, like a real estate. Buying real estate, buying old rundown houses, fixing them up as eco houses and renting them out. And my wife then became the manager of those businesses and doing a diversity of things myself. So I started to recognize I have much more talent than I ever thought I could. I mean, I started out, I'm an engineer, but really I'm not. I'm an innovator, if I can say that, and that why not use these talents in all kinds of different directions. So I dropped this idea that I wanted to kill myself. I want to live as long as I can. I'm 80 years old now and still very excited and glad that Benjo invited me. Now, the question I think still on the table, and then I'll open it up to whatever questions you have. Let me check my notes here. Okay, yeah, here's what I found the key was to getting started, and that is everything starts with ideas. You know, you just don't wander in and say, I want to be an innovator. What do I do next? Well, you need ideas. You need ideas either from yourself or from others. We live in what I call an idea sphere. And So ideas become the currency of innovation. And you have to realize you're playing the odds. Maybe out of 100 ideas that I can generate, maybe only 2 or 3 of them are radical enough, are good enough to really spend a lot of time and effort doing. But you need that 100 ideas to be able to start with, because you're playing the odds in that perspective. Now, the good news is that to generate ideas, you need to be in the mode of play, P-L-A-Y, play. You want to play. You want to be loose. You want to look around. You want to see things that you haven't seen before. You want to be open. And that's one of the most pleasurable things you could ask for. Every day I say, well, let's see, what do I see? Is there a new idea that I can then write down in my idea journal? Because ideas are like dreams, they're fleeting, they don't stick with you. So I have my idea journal, and I write down my ideas in that idea journal. And so this journal itself, I fill about 1 or 2 of them a year. And then what I do is I go through them, and I use yellow to see what ideas are good. What ideas do I want to try out? And I always have ideas that I'm trying out. So I have a process involving, and it's all because I'm in the play mode. I'm open, I'm curious, I want to run experiments. And I leave it open to, I don't think just because I'm an engineer, I can't mess around with other areas. As a matter of fact, a lot of times ideas come to me that have no relevance to me other than they're very interesting, and I'll talk with other people and we'll do something about it. So it's just developing your curiosity. And play stimulates our natural curiosity. It also reduces our stress, because we live in a stressful era. There's all sorts of things you can look at and say, well, could that hurt me? Could that influence my job? This and that. But if you're coming up with ideas, it stimulates our imagination. And our imagination is really from being monkeys in the jungle 10 million years ago to what we are today. It's through the imaginations of our predecessors. And so as we continue to use our imagination, it's like anything else, you get good at it. You know, you think about, how did you become a nurse or whatever else? It was a step-by-step process that you embraced, and the more you learned, the more you could learn, and on and on. So it's this idea of that play is a social activity. And as a social activity, I always wanted people around me, like-minded people and some unlike-minded people, who could feed me back and forth. And Keith has good ideas. John has ideas. Let's get together for breakfast every Wednesday morning and just have fun throwing out ideas at each other and seeing how we can help each other. And that is, you know, what I told you before about the volatility, uncertainty, and complexity and ambiguity of our culture. On the other hand, we have our imagination, we have our curiosity, we have the ability to change things through the ideas that we generate. And once you have strong ideas, then you start thinking, well, where can I get the resources? Maybe this other person has resources. How can I try these things out? How can I go through the experimental mode? What can I learn from the failed experiments? And it becomes a good part of your life, because I realized that, you know, that's my future. I still have, I'm 80 years old. I still have at least 10 years, maybe 15 to push my limits. I'm not stopping right now. So that's the message. Now, what does that mean? Because what I'm asking you to do is to disrupt yourself, disrupt the way of your life, your life to a certain degree, to transform your mindset and habits and routines to achieve greater success. And I'll give you kind of a list of things, and then you can ask me questions. But like, you need to embrace change. Like, look at all this technology we have. Well, are you into artificial intelligence yet? Have you tried it? There's Chat GDP coming out. I use it. As a matter of fact, I asked the AI thing, I said, how does play foment ideas? And it gave me the answer. The answers that are in the literature that I could cross-check against my ideas. But I think artificial intelligence, it's going to be easy to use, and it's powerful. There's no question it's going to change a lot of things. Another thing was I hurt my knee a couple of weeks ago in a sporting activity, and I went ahead and checked AI against what the doctor said to see if he was on track or not. And it turned out he was. But anyways, it can be used for a whole bunch of different things. So there's the embracing change, and the change in technology is pretty unbelievable. But once you see how easy it is to use. Okay, another one is, what are your strengths and weaknesses? We all have strengths, we all have weaknesses, but the weaknesses are just something perhaps that we haven't given any priority to. And sometimes it's better to go in areas where you struggle, where you have problems, and see how you can improve and set goals in those areas. Another one is this concept that probably most of you are into, and that's continuously learn and acquire new knowledge. There's no sense in making knowledge if it's already out there and you can access it. And then there's the question of feedback and mentorship. I think it's so important to find people who are like-minded and to interact with them and exchange ideas. That is a multiplier. And then I talked about failure and how do you embrace failure and just consider it a learning activity. If it's a learning activity, you don't feel so bad about it. I failed. Let's see what I learned. What could I have done differently? How would I change this parameter or that parameter? And all this requires a certain amount of self-reflection. Sit back and say, well, let's look at this arm's length. Where am I going with this? Where's my emotional mindset and my behavior? And what biases do I have? And what does that mean? And so like I say, journaling is a good way for me to look and reflect. Of course, you can also meditate and do other ways to allow your inner self to come out. And I have lastly here that disrupting myself, yourself, requires action. You have to take action. You have to experiment. You have to iterate. You have to be open to this. And lastly, that reinventing yourself is a journey. It takes time, maybe a long time. It requires perseverance, resilience, and an openness to change. So on one hand, if you decide to reinvent yourself, understand that this is not tomorrow or the next day. This is a process. This process takes time and effort and is discouraging and encouraging, and your emotional balance gets out of whack when all this goes on. And but you learn to say, why not? Why not? I have a lot in me that I haven't tried, and even though I'm a nurse or an engineer, that's just a label. You're a human being, and you have all sorts of things. Go back a generation or even 100 years ago, you have pretty much the same brain, but people were using it for different purposes. 100 years ago, my ancestors were farmers. My dad grew up on a farm, a dirt farm. And my grandfathers both came from Scandinavia as children. They were living in what I'll call semi-slavery over there, and they had a chance to come to America and start new life. And the last thing I want to say is, have fun. It'll drive you crazy if you go around being so incredibly serious all the time. You got to let your curiosity and testing things and understand that you're going to get the best ideas through play. I mean, it sounds ironic, but it's true that it really stimulates our imagination and gives us ideas that we wouldn't otherwise get. And I love that part of it. And I look forward to looking through my idea journal, or what am I going to get out of this meeting today? And what will I write here? I'm just looking at what I've written recently. Oh, I have a quote by a fellow named Maslow, who won a Nobel Prize for his work. He was a psychologist. And he said, if it's not you, who? If it's not you, who? Why can't it be you? And there is this thing called a fear of success. Okay, that we fear if we're successful, we're going to be moving up that chain of command, and we're going to have even more responsibility. And I don't want that for whatever reason. But then there's the other one that says, I did it. I'm the one that I'm the one that had an idea, and I made it happen. So there is these what are called quantum shifts going on in our culture and our society now. For instance, I've been looking at this war in Ukraine and Russia, and I'm seeing how Ukrainians are tremendously inventive, and they are very effectively using drones. It's drone warfare. And I'm trying to relate that to other things where, I mean, drone warfare, I'm not that kind of person, but okay, one last story. Let's see, what time are we doing? Are they ready for question and answers?
We have some questions already, but from what I saw are mostly comments. But I saw a question a while ago. But you can still tell that story that you were telling, the story that you're about to say.
Well, let me then, I'll give you one more thing that I've done recently that may stimulate some questions. Through my wife, she had a great idea. Well, why don't we go to a fitness organization and get more fit as we get older? And so I took her advice, and I've been kind of athletic most of my life, so I thought I was in pretty good shape. But when I went there, I found out I wasn't in good shape. My elbow hurt, my knee hurt, my back hurt. And so they had trainers. So I found a trainer that was like-minded, and we started working together. And at that time, because I had been a tennis player and a runner, I didn't have much of an upper body in terms of muscularity. And so, well, why don't we emphasize that? So we did, and there's one exercise that's very important in getting your upper body. It's called a pull-up, where you pull up to a bar, pull up. It's very difficult exercise. When I started there, I could do one pull-up, one. So let's work on that. So after about a year and a half, I got up to 5 pull-ups. And okay, we're getting somewhere with this. Now I'm having little injuries and setbacks, but we're still working on various techniques for the pull-up. And after 3 years, I got up to 10. I could do 10 in a row, which is, that's pretty amazing. I could do 10 of them, and I could see that my body, my upper body was changing, getting more muscular. And then I was wondering, well, what are the world records for pull-ups? And there is a world record for any age of 70 pull-ups within 1 minute. 70, that's less than 1 second per pull-up. Well, these are for young people, not for me. And so I looked and I found that for an 80-year-old, the record was 17. 17 pull-ups in 1 minute. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know if I can make that record or not, but let's use that as a goal. So I set that as a goal. And by the end of this past year, I was up to 15. So very close, 15 pull-ups in 1 minute. Now I could do more than 15, but it would take more than a minute because that's a big constraint. So how am I going to overcome that constraint? I just can't do more than 15, but maybe 15 is okay. Maybe I should stop there. No, I don't want to stop there. I want to break the record. So it happened that I was reading a book called The Vikings, the history of the Vikings, the warriors 1,000 years ago who conquered much of Europe. They're from Scandinavia, and they had, on the battlefield, they had an advantage in that they had these warriors that were called berserkers. And there's an English word called berserk, where it's somebody that kind of goes crazy. And so these berserkers would go crazy on the battlefield. They would lose their minds. They were out there just swinging their axes, and everybody would follow them. And that was one of the keys to their battle. I thought, well, can I get berserk while I'm doing this? So I thought, I'm just going to say berserk, 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 and see if that helps. The first time I tried it, I got to 20. 20. I broke the record by 3. And then I go back and I analyze this. And I should say that I followed up. And now here, 5 months later, doing 20 is a warm-up exercise for me now. But what happened was I had removed the mental constraint. And so I was just operating physically. I had the physical ability to do it, but mentally I wasn't there. Mentally, my body was shutting, I was shutting my body down. So that's the power of the mentality of the thinking that, well, I can't do it. I can't get to 20. I didn't know, or I didn't realize fully how my mind was stopping me. And I think there's an analogy or a reality that much of the time our brain stops us from doing things. Oh, we can't do this. It can't happen. We can't make it happen. I can't be innovative. I can't disrupt myself. And it's a mental blockage. It's a mental blockage. I can't have those students go talk to the president of the university. That's a stupid idea. But they did. So I think that's the last message I have is we tend to pull back and not try. And that's probably the biggest obstacle of all. We have all these other constraints, but the biggest one is our own constraints that we put on ourselves. So that's my lasting message here is go for it. Try it. It all starts with I'll try. Okay, end of message. What are the comments? What do you have to say?
Actually, Jack, your how can I say it? Your presentation is very rich with deep level of wisdom, and I took note of all of it. But before we proceed with the question and answer, let me just call in one of our dear colleagues just to provide and deliver a short words of wisdom and appreciation also and gratitude to you, Dr. Jack, and also to our president, the president of St. Paul University Philippines, who is also here in this in our event for tonight.
Okay, Jeanette, I see your face.
Yes.
What would you like to say?
Yeah, hello everyone. Good evening, everyone. To our highly esteemed speaker for tonight's session for the Global Webinar Series, Dr. Jack V. Matson. To our moderator, Dr. Benjamin Joel Brebonaria. Our University President, Sister Merceditas Oang, SPC. Our dear participants or attendees to this international webinar, good evening to you all. I guess flexibility is one value I learned today as a key factor of innovation. From an opening remarks, I have to shift and give the closing remarks instead. And I would like to apologize for the delay I have caused earlier. So we live in a VUCA world, a world which we consider the time of rapid change. It is an era where new technologies are emerging every day. And every minute we are seeing breakthroughs in areas such as artificial intelligence, robotics, and biotechnology. These advancements, we have to admit, are changing the way we live, the way we work, and even the way we interact with each other. With all these fast-paced changes, new opportunities for innovation are being created. These exactly are the opportunities that challenge us, opportunities wanting to be unlocked, and opportunities that nudge us to be more, to be greater. And I believe there is only one feasible way to do this, to unlock unlimited opportunities, and that is to innovate. Indeed, innovation is the key to unlocking new opportunities and shaping our own future. Whatever the state of life we have, whether we are entrepreneurs, students, teachers, doctors, engineers, nurses, or anyone looking to succeed in the coming years, we need to embrace innovation. We need to embrace innovation in all its forms. Innovation, according to the sharing of Dr. Matson a while ago, is not just about creating new technologies or products. Rather, it is a mindset, a way of thinking that is focused on finding new and better ways to do things. Luckily, I had the chance to start reading his book entitled Innovate or Die. And he also said that innovation is about questioning the status quo and discovering new ways to solve problems. Innovation is not always easy and will never be easy. It requires hard work, dedication, and persistence. But inspiringly, please do take note that the rewards of innovation are immense. When we innovate our future, we open up new possibilities, not just for ourselves, but also for others. We create value, we solve problems, and we make the world a better place. Thank you so much, Dr. Matson, for opening our minds and making us do a big leap, a paradigm shift. Your session tonight has made us deepen our sense of creativity and innovation. You made our drive for innovation grow. Tonight, or this morning for some, you taught us the following. So I came up with an acrostic which encapsulate our learning taking from your sharing tonight. Letter I, inquire with passion. We are now driven to ask questions, explore new ideas, and be open to criticisms. We will be more curious and never allow the luster of inquisitiveness to dull. Letter N, new beginnings. We will start anew and define our goal. We will understand what we want to achieve. This could be a new technology, a product, or service that we want to create. Letter N, networking and collaboration. Innovation often requires collaboration with different people and organizations. So this time we will connect with experts, partners, and stakeholders to help us achieve our goal. We will always remember that innovation is a team effort. We will never be afraid to collaborate with others and seek out diverse perspectives. Working with others will help us see things from what we have never seen before. We will always remember that no single individual or organization can create the future alone. We need to work together, share ideas, and build on each other's strengths. Collaborating with others will allow us to pool resources, knowledge, and expertise. Letter O, open-mindedness. If we want to innovate our future, we need to start by cultivating a culture of innovation in our lives. This means being open-minded, being curious, and willing to take risks. It means being willing to fail and learn from our mistakes. Letter V, validate our work. To innovate for the future, we must also be mindful of the ethical implications of our work. We must consider the impact our innovations will have on society and the environment, and we must strive to create solutions that are inclusive and equitable. Letter A, amplify your dreams. Start stimulating in yourselves imagination and creativity. Letter T, take risks and embrace failure. To innovate for the future, we must be willing to take risks and embrace failure. We must be open to new ideas and be willing to challenge the status quo. We need to be curious and ask questions and must be willing to experiment and try on new things. Letter E, embrace change. Change can be scary, but it's necessary for growth and progress. We will not be afraid to step outside our comfort zone and try something new. We'll take risks, experiment, and learn from our failures. Letter Y, yes to opportunities. Grab every opportunity that comes along our way. Nothing happens by chance, and everything has a purpose. Letter O, optimism is the key. We will omit negativities and block every aspect that hinders us to go further. We will always look at the brighter side. Letter U, unlimited ideas. Keep notes of bright ideas. Look for ideas that you want to try out and always be on a play mode to develop your curiosity. Letter R, research. Once you have defined your goal, start researching and look for trends to identify other potential opportunities. Letter F, for future. Focus on focus. Innovation requires focus and persistence. Stay committed to your goal and keep working towards it, even in the face of challenges. Letter U, understand the world. The world has a lot to offer. We just have to be very keen of what is needed and what is to be improved. Make the world our playground. Letter T, embrace technology. Technology is a key enabler of innovation. Explore new technologies, tools, and platforms that can help us achieve our goal. Letter U, unleash creativity. Innovation always requires creativity. Don't be afraid to think outside of the box and come up with new ideas. Look for inspiration in unexpected places and collaborate with others to bring your ideas to life. Letter R, reshape the future. The future is not predetermined. It is up to us to shape it, and innovation is only the key in doing so. Letter E, experiment. Innovation involves trying new ideas, testing, and learning from failures. Be open to experimenting and refine your ideas. Innovate your future. Once again, thank you so much, Dr. Matson. Rest assured that we will be more creative, we will collaborate, we will take risks, we shall embrace change, and we shall think outside the box. We will create a future that is better than what we have today. We will work together to build a world that is more just and better place to live in by innovating our own future. At this juncture, I also would like to thank Sister Merceditas, the President of St. Paul University, Philippines, for always allowing us to grow and for always providing unlimited opportunities for innovation. So I just would like to inform everyone that one perfect manifestation of this is that SPUP, this is a very recent news. SPUP is the only university in Region 2 ranked in the world's universities with real impact or worry. SPUP's innovative program on ethical value will be featured in the case presentations of Global Top 100 Universities in the Philippines, universities in WURI rather, ranking 2023. SPUP is one of only 2 universities in the Philippines whose innovative program will be presented in the 2023 WURI conference in Florida, USA. So congratulations, Sister Merceditas. Congratulations as well to St. Paul University, Philippines. With that, thank you so much, Caritas Christie or Jetmas.
Well, thank you so much for those kind words and summarizing what I said. I do see there are a couple questions that I would like to address. One of them is from Mikhail Cruz. And he asks, how do you promote change or adoption of new technologies to those reluctant to change? Well, the reality is that there is a tremendous resistance to change. And that is one of the most important questions is, I call these people blockheads, because they're people that inherently will try to block whatever you try to do. And so you've got to be very creative on how do you get around these people? You know, whether you do experiments in secret and then show the results, or you confront that person and show what the potential benefits are and the possibilities, and just work with that person. Think of how could I make that person part of my team rather than denying me the opportunity to try these new technologies, because we're in a technological world and you can't stop technology. You have to learn to embrace it and do it. Like I say, I think for all of you, these new technologies of machine learning and things like that are there, and you can either try to deny it or you can use them to your own benefit. And it's always better to see, well, okay, we got this new way of doing things, just like Zoom. I mean, we wouldn't have this without this kind of technology. So my answer is, I always expect that there will be reluctance. And so I try to develop innovative strategies. It's just part of whatever I put out there. And hopefully there are other people, like I was lucky that the president decided that he would do it. Okay, here's another question from Zade Nico Tisnato. How can individuals overcome the fear of failure and develop a willingness to take risks, which is essential for innovative thinking and personal growth? That fear of failure is inherent in us because we don't want to be looked as failure in the process. And I think it's like learning anything. You got to learn that failure is learning experience. That practically every new idea you have, there's going to be failures associated with it. And some new ideas that I have, or many new ideas, people say, well, you can't do this, you shouldn't be able to do that, etc. But sometimes I listen and say, well, maybe this isn't such a good idea because of something, and I change the idea or I move on. I mean, like I say, I think that out of 100 ideas, 2 of them become real and substantial. Some of them don't do too well, but that's what it's all about. You're taking risks. You're in the casino of risk, and you just have to recognize that you're going to have resistance. But it's a powerful tool inside you if you can know and understand that the game of innovation is the game of risk, and the game of risk means that a lot of your ideas are not going to be recognized, or maybe aren't any good. I have ideas that somebody tells me I'm crazy and gives me good reasons for it. And, well, maybe you got a point here. What if we modify this, or it's a dead end and move on? It's life. It's like hunter-gatherers back 10,000 years ago, and hunting antelopes and how many failures they have. Now we have different kinds of failures, but nonetheless, or we don't even call them failures. I mean, what's a failure? I had an intelligent, fast failure, but a failure in the way I look at it is I learn more than I wouldn't if I was just immediately successful. All right, what else? What else do we have here, Ben? Do I have a few more minutes?
Thank you so much, Doctor. But I just would like to read some of the comments. It's not questions, but more on comments.
Okay.
I personally believe that when you master failure, you master life, because life is a series of lessons to be learned. Innovation is living life to the fullest. And then we have another one here. I appreciate when you mentioned that the more you learn, the more you could learn. It's a powerful statement because it talks about being limitless. All right. So, Doctor, I will be just calling one of my dear colleagues here also to give his deliver his takeaway message from the event tonight. I will call Dr. Alan PJ, please.
Yes, good evening, and thank you for the learnings that we had tonight. Actually, while I was listening to Dr. Matson, I was engrossed with his wisdom, and at the same time, all the experiences that he gained in life. But nevertheless, I think that's one of the things that we need to understand in life. If we do not innovate, we are not transforming at all. If we do not innovate, we will be extinct. We will become fossil. that's my realization tonight. That's the reason why in his work, Innovate or Die, I agree. if we do not innovate at all, we will not be transformed. And I think one of the things that I would like to take off in this sharing is that while we also innovate and improve ourselves, we also do not forget others. As they say that when we want to improve ourselves, we also improve the others around us. So I think that's one of the things that my key takeaway for tonight's sharing. Thank you very much, Dr. Benjo. Always.
Thank you so
Well,
much, Dr. Alan. Thank you so much for that. Really, also Dr. Janet, you were able to synthesize that very rich story of Dr. Matson, because I will tell
Yes,
you,
I
I've written a
agree.
lot on my notes as well. But what I like is it's like every time you have an idea, uh, how can I say it? Record it so that you won't forget it, so that you will have this list of ideas that probably something that you may want to work on and try to materialize in the future. So that's something that probably one of the best things that I learned from the presentation and from the story of Dr. Matson. And of course, I think one of the key takeaway is the importance of creating new memories, that you can always start over, you can always start anew, and also the importance of disrupting yourself and transforming yourself, because that is really one way for you to achieve greater success. Actually, most of the statements from your story, Dr. Matson, can be, how can I say, presented as a quotation, because even from those words, you can actually interpret it in many different ways and in many in a deeper level of interpretation. So thank you so much for that. So, Dr.
well,
Matson,
I'd like to just say this one last thing. Just think of all the failure Benjo went through to put on this series of seminars.
yeah, you're right about
he,
Oh, that's true.
he had to master failure to make this happen. So I
Yes.
appreciate your efforts and
journey.
your diligence and your creativity to have this happen, because I know you went through a lot of failure to get here.
You're right. Thank you so much, Dr. Reed. I appreciate that. Now I understand why you mentioned that very particular statement to me through our conversation. Because it is indeed same as grit. When you how can I do not feel discouraged, so it's like you will still try your best to continue, because it all emanates from what you want to do, and you want to share the experience, because instead of me just learning from the experience, but we're sharing it to a lot of people utilizing your voice. So that is exceptionally great, really.
Okay, so thank you. I am going to sign off now. I have to get ready to fly to Houston, Texas here, and
Yes.
my granddaughter is graduating from college, so we're going to wish her well. She lives in Houston.
Thank you so much.
Again, I appreciate the
Thank you so much,
opportunity.
Dr. Matson.
Thank you. Thank you. So to our closing part of the event, I just would like to, of course, also my dear colleagues probably would like to say something, but as always, this is another session that is really full of wonderful words of wisdom. Sometimes when we least expect it, in a way that in an ordinary day, you were thinking of what else can I learn, or do I have to learn? And then eventually try to, to listen to all these words of wisdom from Dr. Matson. Really, there are a lot of key takeaways that we learn from it. And of course, to close our event, as always, we want to thank St. Paul University Philippines, especially with the unending and personalized, individualized, and extreme support of the President, Sister Merceditas Ang, and also my dear colleagues for always keeping up and staying with us to deliver this series of events to all the professionals or nursing, I mean students who would like to benefit from it. So That's it. What about my dear colleagues? Do you want to say something before we put in the evaluation link here for our participants to evaluate the event for tonight? So I guess, all right. Okay, so we will be putting in the evaluation link, all right, so that the participants who are here can evaluate the program. So please feel free to send in the to evaluate the event before we close it in 2 minutes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. We appreciate it. You know, Doctor, really, I took notes of everything that you said. And this is it. Actually, this is from your lecture, from your story. I've written a lot of takeaways.
Okay, well, I'm signing off. I wish you well.
You too,
Yeah.
Doctor. Take care.
Please create the future for us. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, Doctor. Bye.
Bye bye, doctor. Take care.